Hi guys, I hope everyone had a good Christmas. I just wanted to give you a quick update on how my Invisalign treatment is going. I went about a week ago today to have my first set of IPR. If you don't know what IPR stands for, it stands for interproximal reduction, which is where your orthodontist or your dentist, if you are having Invisalign with either of those, will take something that looks kind of like a piece of sandpaper, and it's attached to a little drill head, and it's the one that they used for me was actually this little round piece, probably about this big. It looked like sandpaper, like I said, and it was attached to the end of this little thing that sounded like a drill when he turned it on, and it basically spins around, and they put it in between certain teeth that need to have space made in between them. And it's basically an alternative to having your teeth pulled. So if you need extra space made in your mouth, instead of pulling teeth out, they can just file in between some of them, and then it'll make the space that's needed without having to have your teeth pulled. So it's kind of a good thing if you consider the alternative, I guess. But basically I had to have IPR on some of my bottom teeth where I had a lot of crowding. And I was actually scheduled in my treatment plan to go in every 6 weeks for the next 3 appointments and have IPR on various bottom teeth. But what my orthodontist decided to do was to just do IPR all at once in between pretty much all of my bottom teeth, except for one that he said was overlapping too much for him to do it on. And so therefore I won't have to have it done, my next 3 appointments. So I will show you my teeth with my Invisalign on and without. So I'll go ahead and show you with. Okay. Now these teeth on the bottom, this is where the IPR was done. So I'm going to take my aligners out and then I'll show you where the IPR was done. Okay. So you can see in between these 2 teeth, here, and here is where they had to do some filing. And I know when you look at it right now, obviously there are gaps in between my teeth. But I'm not worried about them because that was the whole point, was to make space in between those teeth so that they have room to move. So the purpose of my Invisalign treatment from this point forward is going to be to get this tooth up into the correct position. If you look at it, you can see that it's out of alignment. So these teeth will move closer together and that will give this tooth enough space to move up and into the correct position. So that's the number one thing that's going to be done on the bottom. And obviously they'll all be straight at the end of the treatment. My top teeth, I'm on tray 12 right now on both the top and the bottom, and what my top teeth are currently doing is this tooth here and here. These teeth are rotating. Both of them are kind of, aligned at an angle right now, and they need to be straightened out like this. So they're going to be moving in this direction, which when I looked at my ClinCheck, it actually showed that I will have a gap in between these 2 teeth at the end of my treatment, which I was not happy about. And I can already see this little teeny gap starting to open up there. But what my orthodontist told me is that at the end of my first set of trays, if I'm not happy with it, if the gap doesn't close up like it's supposed to, then he can always do IPR on this tooth and kind of shave it down a little bit, and then take new impressions, and then I can get a set of refinement trays that can go ahead and close that gap up the way that I want it to be closed up. Because when I started my Invisalign treatment, there was no gap there, and that wasn't my concern. So I would not be happy if I ended up having a gap where I didn't have a gap previously. But other than that, everything seems to be going really well. I'm going to go ahead and put my trays back in. For those of you that have to have IPR and are worried about it hurting or being painful, I can tell you that from my personal experience, it was not painful at all. I told you in my last video I wasn't worried about it, and I wasn't stressed out the day of the appointment. I went in, and it was a very quick procedure. There was no blood as far as my teeth were concerned. I know some people do experience a little bit of bleeding. I would imagine that's if you have more like tender gums, but I think if you floss pretty regularly and you keep up with your oral hygiene, then you probably won't have a problem with bleeding or, you know, pain. I didn't have any pain, but if you have sensitive teeth, then I guess that, you know, it might be a different story for you. But for me, it was pain-free. It was not a big deal. Nothing that I would stress myself out over. I'm trying to think what else do I want to tell you guys today. I told you I'm on tray 12, and I have a total of 24 trays. 21 of those trays are part of my scheduled treatment, and 3 of those trays are considered overcorrections, which basically they are going to close up any little gaps that are remaining if I'm not quite happy after the first 21 trays. So that's where that top little gap that I'm concerned about could potentially be closed up without a refinement, but if it doesn't get closed up, then I obviously have the option of getting a refinement. I think that's all for today. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below and I will do my best to get back to you. And feel free to comment. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're in the middle of your own Invisalign treatment, especially if you're making YouTube videos, please let me know so that I can also subscribe to your channel, because I always like to see people that are going through the same type of thing that I'm going through, and just to see how, you know, people handle it differently. Alright, well I guess that's all for today. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye guys!